Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brady Batiste says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam, and now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Saturday, November 29th, 2025. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 511 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to the first road podcast of the season. I am here in my hotel room I'm in like the greater Washington, Pennsylvania area, about half an hour outside of downtown Pittsburgh. Trying to stay anywhere close to campus was basically a non-starter on Black Friday for whatever reason, but I'm here. I've got my first Diet Mountain Dew of the season, at least like during a podcast. I drink these things all the time, but I'm coming to you from my hotel room after what ended up being a 67-66 Ohio State loss, the likes of which we've seen before, as recently as last year when Ohio State managed to battle Pitt at home to a 91-90 overtime loss that came on a Zach Austin three-pointer in the final seconds of overtime. And this one literally came down to the final second when Pitt's DeMarco Minor hit a three-pointer literally at the buzzer to answer an Amari Bynum go-ahead bucket with 3.7 seconds left to hand the Buckeyes their first loss of the season. This is a Pitt team that came in with a 4-3 record, a Pitt team that is ranked 92nd at KenPom, and a Pitt team that had lost 3 of its previous 4, including a 83-75 home loss to Quinnipiac back on Sunday, November 23rd. Since then, the Panthers had 5 days to prepare for Ohio State. Ohio State was coming in at 6-0, and the Buckeyes just were out of it early, battled back in the second half, took a lead, and then couldn't do enough down the stretch to close it out. And if that does sound familiar, it felt familiar at times. And there's some numbers in here that I think speak volumes about what this team is and maybe what it's not at this point of the season. And I should start this by saying it is way too early to say this team is destined for X or Y. I don't think that this loss guarantees anything for the rest of the season, just like I didn't think the Notre Dame win guaranteed everything for the rest of the season. This ultimately is a 1-point road loss to a team that in a lot of ways got tested anew for the first time this season. Playing on the road, although lackluster environment, honestly. Not a great crowd. I believe the Peterson Event Center holds about 13,000. Announced crowd of 6,299 tonight. The only time it was loud, in all honesty, was when the three-pointer went through the net at the very end of the game. So it's not like Ohio State was walking into the Breslin Center for its first road game of the season. But I also thought that some of what we saw early on from Ohio State in this game was an adjustment to simply playing a team that is bigger and more athletic and stronger than the teams the Buckeyes had played until this point. I think that had something to do with the start of the game, and that allowed the Panthers to settle in a bit and to get some confidence going. And ultimately, Pitt's lack of overall talent prevented them from really pulling away and allowed Ohio State to eventually find a way to claw its way back into it and hold the lead for much of the second half, but not do enough to ultimately win this game. So let's run down this box score real quickly here, or at least a couple of numbers that really jump out. So first off, 5 Buckeyes played. Well, let me back up. Ohio State ended up being shorthanded as this game went on. John Mobley Jr. Suffered looked like a right ankle injury. He was grabbing at his right ankle. He landed kind of awkwardly in the first half with like 2:21 to go. He was fouled on a jumper, kind of landed weird and was clutching his ankle. Went to the free throw line, missed both free throws, which I think is probably an indicator of how he was feeling because he was 22 of 23 coming into the game, and then he missed both of them, which were the only 2 free throws that Ohio State missed all game. But then he left, did not return, came out to try to go in the second half, it looked like, but had a very heavy limp and spent some time with a member of the training staff. Ultimately went back to the locker room and then came back in a walking boot. We'll talk more about him here in a moment. But so in his absence, Gabe Cupps played 26 minutes and 50 seconds. But Ohio State it was 38 minutes from Devin Royal, 31 minutes or 32 really, from Christoph Tilley. Bruce Thornton played all but a minute and 35 seconds. Amari Bynum, 31 minutes and 10 seconds off the bench. And then after that, it dropped off pretty significantly. Devin Royal had 22 points to lead Ohio State on 15 shots. He also had 4 turnovers. Ohio State as a team had 13 turnovers. Bruce Thornton had 18 points on 15 shots. It was his least efficient game of the season. I thought he looked a little gassed at the end of the game. He had 2 shots blocked. He was 1 of 5 from 3. But he did not commit a foul. He drew 5 fouls, and he pulled down a career-high 13 rebounds. Thornton makes it difficult to criticize too much about his game a lot of times. I mean, even on a night when it takes him 15 shots to get 18 points, he had 13 rebounds. That's a game-high 13 rebounds. That's the first time he's ever been in double digits. His previous career high was 8. So he ends up with 13. Nobody else from Ohio State had more than 6. Christoph Tilley had 6 rebounds in 31 minutes and 42 seconds. But the numbers that jump out in this game, and really what tells the final margin, isn't that Pitt hit a 3 at the buzzer. It's that Pitt had 69 shots from the floor. Ohio State had 54. Buckeyes hit 42.6% of their shots. Didn't shoot well from 3, 7 of 24, only 29.2%. And they shot a lot in the first half. 15 of Ohio State's 26 first half shots were threes, and they only made 4 of them. So not a great 3-point shooting night for the Buckeyes. And Devin Royal was 4 for 8. So the rest of the team was 3 for 16. But Ohio State took 15 fewer shots than Pitt and 1 fewer free throw. Now, Ohio State was 13 of 15 from the line. Pitt was 10 of 16 from the line. But the Panthers, for only shooting 37.7%, only made 3 more shots than Ohio State. Pitt pulled down 16 offensive rebounds in this game. Ohio State pulled down 9 offensive rebounds. It didn't turn into a massive difference in second chance points. Ohio State actually had 9 second chance points to Pitt's 6 second chance points. But Ohio State also committed 13 turnovers in this game. Pitt had 5 turnovers. Pitt had a 17-5 advantage in points off of turnovers. And so on a night when Ohio State shot 42.6% from the floor, actually had a better offensive efficiency rating than it did in the win against Notre Dame, still found a way to lose because Pitt was able to consistently extend its possessions, limit Ohio State's opportunities to score. And when Ohio State did have the ball, they turned it over too much. I said 4 turnovers from Devin Royal, 3 from Christoph Tilley, and then a couple other guys each had 1. At the other end, or on the other bench rather, Pitt got no bench points, got all of its scoring from its starters. 18 from Cameron Corrin, 18 from DeMarco Minor, including the game winner, 18 from Barry Dunning Jr., and Pitt had a 39-38 advantage in the rebounding category. So ultimately, 1-point loss for Ohio State. There's a couple sequences here I want to go over. Before we do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you subscribe, you'll automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our man, Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review, please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. So thanks everyone who's taking the time to do all those things, and thanks to all of you who listen to these and allow me to keep doing this. It was interesting because this was, like I said, it was about half an hour, 35 minutes outside of downtown Pitt. So as soon as I got done writing, I was just very anxious to get back to the hotel and start talking because I just feel like I have a couple of thoughts on this game and kind of what we saw and what we didn't see. So first thing, let's talk about Mobley's injury. He, like I said, did not return. When I asked Diebler about what's going on, he said, we're not sure. He said, I'm hopeful that's all precautionary. I'd assume we'll get a much more thorough evaluation of him, of Bruce there at the end, of Tilley as well. So let's analyze all that here for a minute. So Mobley had come into the game averaging 16.8 points for Ohio State, second on the team in scoring, coming off a career-high 26 against Mount St. Mary's on Tuesday. And in this game, he finished with 3. Only played 13 minutes, 57 seconds. I didn't think Ohio State as a team did not have a good start to the game, and I didn't think that Mobley did either. First possession, Pitt opens with a 3-pointer from DeMarco Minor, who ends up going 3 of 8 from 3, but he was wide open. Junie went under a screen, left him wide open. Just like that is 3-0. Ohio State would not get the lead until the second half. Next possession, he took a deep 3, and I just wrote brick. Was not close. Next possession, Ohio State turns it over. Brandon Knoll steps out of bounds. It was 7-0 before Ohio State scored when Bruce Thornton got a quick layup. And then it was 9-2 when Amari Witherspoon, who had 11 points, drove around Mobley and scored. It felt like at times they were picking on Mobley defensively. And it was a struggle for him. Like Ohio State was down 13-4, and then Pitt built its biggest lead at 16-4 when Mobley was guarding DeMarco Minor, fouled him at the rim on to give him a 3-point play, and that came after just a lazy pass. Had the ball in the backcourt and was just kind of tossing it to Bruce Thornton, and that set up the 3-point play for DeMarco Minor because he saw it coming, sprinted, easily stole the ball, went the length of the court, scored as Mobley kind of gave a late contest, and just like that, 16-4 Pitt with 14:50 to go in the first half. So rough start for him. Who knows where the game would have ultimately ended up? Ohio State certainly relies on his ability to to make shots. And on a night where Ohio State loses by 1 and goes 7 of 24 from 3, you sort of assume that he would have hit 2 or 3. And instead he's 1 of 3 and only plays 13 minutes and 57 seconds. Now that led to Ohio State having to lean heavily on Gabe Cupps. And I had a couple of people asking me on Twitter, like, tell me what Gabe Cupps does for this team. Like, what is his role? What does he provide? So clearly he's not much of an offensive threat. 0 of 2 from the field, both were 3-pointers. One was, I thought, an ill-advised one, but he did hit 2 free throws. He had 4 defensive rebounds, which actually ties him for the second most on the team. 12 of Bruce Thornton's 13 rebounds were defensive rebounds. So he was very active on the defensive glass. Tilley had 4, and Gabe Cupps had 4. So Cupps, again, 26 minutes, 50 seconds, drew 2 fouls. He had 3 assists, 1 turnover, and a steal. On a night when Ohio State had 13 turnovers, he did a lot of ball handling, 26 minutes, 50 seconds, only 1 turnover. He's not going to carry an offense. He's going to move the ball. He's going to play defense. He's going to hound the other team's ball handler. That's what he does. And expecting that he's going to come in and put up 15 in a game or something like that, like that's not who he is. It's not what he's shown to this point. He did miss all of last season. We'll see where his game can maybe grow as time goes on, but that's what he does. This was a normal Gabe Cupps stat line to me. But what then does get interesting is you go down the bench a little bit. Colin White played 1:12, and well, he had a block. They didn't record it as a block. So at the moment, he's recorded as putting up a 1 trillion. And in the second half, with Mobley unavailable, Ohio State did play Tayson Chapman for 1 minute and 7 seconds, and he committed 3 fouls. Only stat that he had 3 fouls in 67 seconds, and that is in very limited time becoming an issue for Chapman. When you look at on KenPom the number of fouls committed per 40 minutes, Chapman's at 9.6 right now. Which leads the team. Ivan Yagovin is second at 7.1. Ivan played a couple of minutes, 8 minutes, 18 seconds. He had 4 points, 4 rebounds, 2 fouls. But, there's just kind of a normal type of game, really, honestly, for Ivan. But without Mobley, they weren't able to play Chapman. Matthew Griachich didn't get off the bench at all. Colin White only played 1:12, and Thornton played almost the entire game. Cupps played the most he's played all season. It got thin kind of quickly there. And then you add in at the end of the game, as Pitt hit the game-winning 3, Thornton was the closest Buckeye to the team bench And as the Pitt players came rushing onto the field or on the court to celebrate, Thornton got clipped from behind and like went down. Looked like someone stepped on, like got him in the back of the leg. And I didn't see it in the moment because there was an awful lot certainly going on. And we asked Thornton about it after the game. He said, I'll be all right. He said, I got looked at by Doc, got some ice on it so don't swell up, but I'll be all right. And he wasn't upset. He said they're trying to celebrate one of their teammates hitting a buzzer beater. It wasn't on purpose. Stuff like that happens. But now what was interesting to me and what Diebler said was, I asked him about Mobley and his status, and he mentioned Bruce, which, I'm sure would have come up. We would have seen it rewatching the replay. But he mentioned Tilly as well. And we know that you go back to last week in the Mount St. Mary's game, he didn't play the second half, lower body issue that hasn't been fully explained. But he was fine to play this game. He played, again, 31 minutes, 42 seconds. But I thought that Pitt's size, such as it is, physicality, such as it is, but just active hands and just being a high major team, even one that was picked, where was Pitt picked in the ACC? I think 14th in the ACC preseason poll. But he struggled. Again, Christoph Tilly goes 1 of 8 in this game. Had, as of the going into the Mount St. Mary's game, was tied for Ohio State's team lead in assists. 31 minutes and 42 seconds. He goes 1 of 8 from the field. He did manage to draw 6 fouls and was 8 of 8 from the free throw line, essentially, all in the second half. And that was pivotal for Ohio State. But a player who is so important to this team's offense, missing 7 of 8 shots, going 0 of 2 from 3, and not having an assist, but turning it over 3 times, that jumps out. That is an eye-opening stat line that I think is of concern as Ohio State now steps into this portion of the schedule where the level of competition is going to obviously rise. And you couple Tilly going 1 of 8 from the floor, no assists, 3 turnovers. Brandon Knoll only played 8 minutes and 50 seconds. He missed 2 threes. He had an assist and a turnover, and that was it. And it was pretty clear as this game went on, they were riding Amari Bynum at the expense of Brandon Knoll to where I don't know how. Well, let's see. I've got the first half box score and the second half box score. So Brandon Knoll played 7 minutes and 19 seconds in the first half. He played 1:31 in the second half. And in the second half, he didn't do anything statistically in that time there in the second half. Amari Bynum played 12 minutes, 41 seconds in the first half and finished at 31 minutes and 10 seconds. So played almost the entirety of the second half and did have what looked like the go-ahead bucket, but just played with a level of physicality and toughness where he had a chase down block. And I can't remember off the top of my head which player it was, but like somebody was going up to dunk and he blocked it from behind. And it was an eye-opening play for him. So he finished off the bench with 7 and 5 in 31 minutes and 10 seconds. So that's what we know about the injuries. And I just felt like it's probably worth wondering at this moment, like, okay, is Tilly dealing with something? And if so, like, how big is this week going to be now for Ohio State? Because the Buckeyes are off here for a minute. They don't play again until they go to Northwestern next Sunday. So if Ohio State is a little bit dinged up right now, Tilly, Thornton, Mobley, certainly that puts some stress on the depth that this team really believed that it had coming into the season, but not many teams can withstand injuries to 3 starters. So we'll see, but this does feel like a big week for Ohio State as far as a get healthy and try to get right to go play against the Wildcats before then coming home to host Illinois, then going to Cleveland to play West Virginia, and then going to Atlanta to play North Carolina. Like it made this game, to me, all the more important because if you're Ohio State, like the level of difficulty is just going to pick up from here. And for Ohio State to find a way back into this game in the second half and then not get it done and give up a game-winning 3-pointer to lose by 1 to Pitt for a second consecutive year, like this is one of those games that we came into the year thinking Ohio State had learned some lessons and would be better. And I think the Notre Dame game validated some of that thinking. And now this feels like kind of it certainly feels like a step backward, even with the Mobley injury, because Ohio State just was not able to draw a line as this game went on. So there were a number of sequences. Once Ohio State fell behind, so Ohio State's down 16-4, and then put together an 11-0 run that forced a Pitt timeout with 10:31 to go. Pitt had missed 9 of its last 10 shots. Ohio State's within 16-15. So here's the first sequence. So Ohio State's within 1, chance to take the lead. They get a jumper from Pitt's Nogis, Industriadis, who was scoreless. He missed a deep jumper. Ohio State gets the ball. Bruce Thornton gets a good look at a 3 that just rolled out. So there's a chance to go ahead. Then they miss. Pitt comes down, turns the ball over. Gabe Cupps kind of took a quick 3 and missed it from the right wing. Next possession, Ohio State survives. So Colin White gets a block out of bounds. But Pitt keeps the ball. DeMarco Minor bricks a 3, but then Tilly fouls on the rebound, and then Roman Supula, who had 7 rebounds in 23 minutes and 36 seconds, 1 of 8 from the floor, had 3 air balls, but he grabs the offensive rebound amid 3 Buckeyes, keeps the possession going, but then turns it over. Now Ohio State gets the ball, still down 1. Devin Royal tries to pass it to Tilly. He just drops the ball. It just kind of goes through his hands. And Pitt, who at this point is 1 of its last 15, then gets a bucket from Barry Dunning Jr. to push it back to 3. And now this would start a mini run for Pitt, 7-0 run that pushed it back to an 8-point lead. And Ohio State would trail by 10 at the half, thanks to a Devin Royal bucket in the paint right at the end of the half. But then Ohio State comes out, cuts it to 4 to open the second half. Tilly gets 2 free throws. Devin Royal scores in the left block. Royal scores again. Pitt calls timeout, minute 13 into the game. Suddenly it's a 4-point game. So here's a sequence that I starred where Ohio State's down 4, has a chance for momentum. Pitt misses a 3. Devin has the ball down 4 and just kind of loses the handle on the ball. And then Devin ends up fouling Amari Witherspoon, who steals the ball, gets the ball to Marco Minor again. He has a wide open 3 that he misses. Now Ohio State's pushing it up the floor, but Gabe Cupps throws an ill-advised pass that Nogis steals. And at the other end, Barry Dunning Jr. hits a 3. So Ohio State with 2 chances there to cut into a 4-point deficit, and then it's 7. And it would not be until 12:53 left in the game that Devin Royal hit a 3 in a really tight space in the left corner that tied the game at 42. And then it was 44-44. And again, going through these sequences here where Ohio State could have taken control. So the Buckeyes, to get it to 44-44, had scored on 4 straight possessions. And then Bruce Thornton came up with with a defensive rebound, his 7th of the game. Ohio State's got the ball, and Devin airballed a 3-pointer. And that took us into the under 12 media timeout. And Yvonne ended up fouling Cameron Corrin. He misses the front end of a 1-on-1, so Ohio State gets the ball back. But then Devin has a shot that's like blocked right to Yvonne, who then misses the shot. And then Pitt comes right back down, and Cameron Corrin goes right at Yvonne, draws the foul, 3-point play. Instead of Ohio State being ahead, they're down 3. Then they eventually take the lead at 48-47. It's 49-48. Ohio State went ahead seemingly for good on a Bruce Thornton 3-point play with 7:02 to go. They made it 51-49. And I have a lot of these possessions here where it's like, and then a rebound, and then a rebound. So it's 51-49. Pitt misses a 3, but then again, Barry Dunning beats 3 Ohio State guys for the rebound. Gets the rebound, the ball goes out of bounds. Gabe Cupps ends up fouling Corrin, who misses both free throws with 6:28 left. But so there's a 34-second sequence where Pitt had its possession extended, ended up with 2 missed free throws, but that's more time Ohio State couldn't score. The other end, Tilly draws a foul, hits 2 free throws. It's a 4-point lead. And then Pitt comes down, gets a miss, but then Thornton got a wide open 3-pointer from the top of the circle that was wide left. That would have been a 7-point lead. Instead, Pitt comes right down. Minor drives, scores. And this starts here with Ohio State up 53-49. When Minor drives and scores, Ohio State would not get another stop the rest of the way. So this is roughly 5 minutes and 30 seconds of the game. Pitt scored on its final 9 possessions of the game. Some of these were extended, like the critical one came with Ohio State ahead 60-57 after Devin Royal hit a bucket from the right elbow. Pitt got 2 offensive rebounds from Roman Siupula. I don't know how to say his name, but 4 of his 7 rebounds were offensive rebounds. I believe he's a former rugby player. And man, those kinds of guys just give Ohio State fits, don't they? But this was the possession. Thornton mentioned it. Diebler mentioned it. Ohio State forces a Witherspoon miss, but then Roman gets the rebound. A long offensive rebound, kind of a weird possession, but then gets the ball to Barry Dunning Jr., who bricks a three-pointer, but Roman comes up with the offensive rebound again and gets the ball back to Barry Dunning Jr., who drives, scores. Pitt's within 1. Ohio State goes back up 3. Devin Royal scores on a drive. And then Amari Bynum ends up fouling Cameron Corrin, who had been he's a 75% free throw shooter, but goes 2 of 6 to this point. Misses the first, makes the second, and then ends up hitting 2 with 35.2 seconds left to tie the game at 64. So he ended up 5 of 10, which is a pretty good save, honestly, after starting 2 of 7. But Ohio State, in this sequence where they just couldn't put Pitt away, mostly kept scoring. But there was a Tilly turnover where he just kind of lost the ball and then fouled Corrin at the other end with 3:28 to go. That made it 58-57. The only other empty possession for Ohio State in there was Bruce Thornton getting blocked at the rim with a lead at 62-60. A layup that would have made it a 4-point game, or if he drew a foul, who knows. But it all came down to Amari Bynum with a put back of his own miss with 3.7 seconds left to make it 66-64, setting up another heartbreaking end of the game for Ohio State against Pitt. Probably won't see these guys on the schedule for a while. Ohio State's not beaten Pitt since like 1961. It's kind of wild. So to me, this ends up being a game. Ohio State had its opportunities, certainly had its chances, did not take good enough care of the basketball for long enough stretches of the game, and was beaten too significantly on the glass. And these were things that, in adding Brandon Knoll and Christoph Tilly, there was, and having Devin Royal at the 3, real strong belief that internally that they would be better on the glass this season. And in a game like this, an inability to take care of the defensive glass and then an inability to take care of the ball results in a 1-point road loss to a team that if you're Ohio State and you want to get where you want to get, this felt like a must win. Now, this does not doom Ohio State's chances for anything. And maybe this is like the one game that you look back on in March and say, well, they lost that one, but then they righted the ship. Like, we'll find out. Bruce Thornton did talk a couple of times about like back to the drawing board and like, we'll be fine. And I'm glad this happened now rather than later. Credit to Bruce, because I mean, he was even after like taking a minor injury there late, like totally like amenable to talking and having well thought out answers, and just like was as pleasant a conversation as you can have with someone who just ended up on the wrong side of a 1-point buzzer beating loss. It was interesting, and I in my post game takeaways I described him as tight lipped, but that was it was a difficult interview with Devin Royal. He just did not have a lot to say. And the video's up at dispatch.com. You can go watch it. But I said, can you take me through the last 30 seconds? Just came down and hit a good shot. We contested it. I said, they scored in their last 9 possessions. Like, what was the challenge there? And he said, we just came in the first 20 minutes and didn't play very good. It's hard to come in and play bad for 20 minutes and win the game. I said, why didn't you start off better? He said, I don't know. We just didn't have energy. I said, so how do you address that? He said, practice tomorrow. Think about it, work hard, get better. I said, how's that sit with you? He said, it hurts. I said, what changed for you offensively in the second half? They seemed to be calling your number a little bit more. At halftime, Devin Royal had 5 points, so he scored 17 in the second half. He said, just went out there and tried to play hard. Deeb got on me for not playing hard, so I went out there and played hard. I said, what was the difference what he was asking, what was the difference in the rebounding? He said, just didn't hit and rebound, just didn't hit. So clearly, and understandably so, but not the kind of loss that really sat all that well with Devin Royal. Interestingly enough, as a team, Ohio State's adjusted offensive efficiency dropped from 28 to 39 nationally with this loss, according to KenPom, but the defense improved from 49 to 44. I don't really know what to make of that, but I did just think that was interesting. So you can go online and read about the last shot and what Ohio State said it was trying to do and why Diebler didn't take took the timeout to set up his defense. I covered all that as extensively as I could on the blog. Ultimately, this is a tough one. This is a difficult one certainly for the morale, for the perception of where the season might be going. With the win, Pitt is now up to 92 at KenPom. So ultimately, this will probably end up being like a quad 2 loss. I mean, it is a true road loss to an ACC team. So we'll see where Pitt ends up in the net rankings. But like, I didn't necessarily come away from this like, man, Pitt's got a really good team. Like, they got a couple of guys that play hard, and they hit a couple of shots when they needed to, certainly late. But man, there were some ugly possessions in this game. So having said all that, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I'll come back with another podcast like midweek sometime. Like I said, with Ohio State being off now until Northwestern, I'll give us a chance to maybe take some stock and analyze the 2 high major games versus the 5 mid-major games and start looking at a couple of things, maybe open it up for some questions. But for what it's worth, after this loss tonight, Ohio State is projected to lose by 1 point at Northwestern and then lose at home to Illinois by 1 point at KenPom. So, yeah, already 2 1-point games and projected to have the next 2 each be a 1-point game. We'll see if Ohio State can be 1 point better than it was tonight, or I guess more accurately, 2 points better than it was tonight. Well, as always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardydispatch.com. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, for getting this out with you. I'll be back with you probably Tuesday or Wednesday, so look for that here in your feed before long. Enjoy the weekend. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I certainly did. It was fun to get to see some family and get to hang out a little bit, and then hightail it over here to Pitt to go watch this game. So take care, everybody. Be kind, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.